think it's about time I do a long-term review of the GFC camper. I think I've tried to film this video 5 or 6 times now and haven't really been satisfied with how it's come out. The largest issue I run into is how do I properly explain how I use the tent compared to how I guess your average or typical customer is going to use the tent, because I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that I use this thing in far more extreme weather than your average user or someone who's going to actually buy, let alone a canopy camper, or even just a rooftop tent. For most folks, if you're going to camp the way I do, you're probably going to end up with like a slide-in truck camper or maybe a van build of all things, rather than trying to manipulate a aluminum and vinyl camper into something that you can camp in down to -40 or all the way up into 90 degrees. And so definitely a like specialty use case, if you will. But we're now well over 200 nights in this thing. I've had it for almost 3 years actually at this point. So almost 3 years, well over 200 nights. I've got a solid idea on how it's supposed to be used, how it does work, and then even just for me, how it actually has worked over the last 3 years. And so when I first bought the Jeep, it's a 2020 Jeep Gladiator Sport. Bought it in Indiana of all places because it was the only place east of the Mississippi that had the kind of combination I was looking for, if you will. But I had, at the time, a Fishbone off-road half rack and then Tepui soft shell tent. So it was just barely above the roof line. And I was running stock suspension and everything for, I think, the first 65,000 miles, so the first 2 years of owning the truck. And it worked great, but the setup and tear down of the soft shell tent took 15 minutes to set up, probably 20 minutes to put everything away. And I kept running into issues with the zippers of all things on the soft shell, like rubber, plastic cover, if you will, because it would always get stuck, or if it was cold, my fingers would start hurting. And so I camped maybe 5 or 6 times a year. Just, it was too much of a pain to set up and tear down. And I definitely wasn't doing one-night camping trips. If I was going to actually camp in it, I'd get to camp at 2 in the afternoon and then set up, and I'd be there for 2 or 3 days because I didn't want to have to open everything up and then close it back up, especially just by myself. It was a pain. So I started looking into hard shell rooftop tents and truck caps, because I was getting annoyed with all of my stuff getting dirty or wet if it was raining with the exposed half rack. And between that and the soft shell tent, it wasn't a great experience living in Michigan at the time, with how much snow we got in the winter, and the rain in the summer just wasn't kind of what I was looking for. So I started looking at truck caps and hard shell tents and realized that if I spent a little bit more money, I could upgrade into something like this, where it's got your truck cap on the bottom, fully enclosed, supposed to be waterproof, but fully enclosed, waterproof tight truck cap with a pass-through to a hard shell rooftop tent. And as you saw as I was starting the video, set up once I take the max tracks off the roof is about 30 seconds. On a typical weekend trip, if you will, I'll even leave all of my bedding upstairs, so I'll use the hover quilt from Aeronaut. I'll use the HEST pillow. I've got a HEST foamy up top. I've since removed the bedding, which we'll get into in a little bit later. And that just closes in entirely on top. And so during the week, unless it's rained, I won't even bother opening it during the week to air it out. I just close it Monday through Friday, go to work, and then come Friday night, we're out camping and everything's already set up, ready to go. Couldn't do that in the soft shell tent. So that's why I went this route. I originally placed the order in December of 2021, and at an original pickup date of early April, I ended up bumping it down to May so that I could time it with a big road trip I was planning, and picked it up at GFC headquarters, had it installed, and did a 19-day road trip with it. Now 3 years later, I'm still doing all of those road trips with it, but with some modifications and some pros and cons that I've picked up over the last 200 plus nights. And 200 nights over 3 years, and it's probably averaging about 70-ish, 75 nights a year for the last 3 years. So not a ton, but definitely more than I think your average camper. And so when I was looking at buying a replacement for the half rack and the rooftop tent, I needed a place that would not only be comfortable for me, but would provide a safe place for him to sleep at night that wasn't separate. When I had the soft shell tent and a half rack, he was having to sleep in the back seat of the cab, and while we have a platform for him and it's comfortable, I didn't really like that he was essentially being locked out of the room at night. And so the key criteria was either a nice platform in the truck bed for him or the pass-through that we have now. And it's ended up working out great. And so when we had it installed, we're now, I think, 5 or 6 different iterations of the truck bed, but this one works out the best, where I've got the heater mounted inside of the truck bed with the exhaust coming out, so that even though he is extremely warm during the winter with his double coat, I don't have to worry about him getting cold at night when we're camping in -20 or -30. And then it allows us to camp and sleep essentially the same way we would at home. And so with our current setup now, which is probably iteration 5 or 6 of the truck bed setup, he gets to sleep in this bottom carve-out area, which we're probably going to modify again this summer to tweak it a little bit. And then I'm up top with the panel removed so that he can still hear me, he can still see me. The heat kind of rises up and heats his area during the winter, plus the tent in the winter. So even though he's got double coat, I don't need to worry about him really getting cold. And this setup works really well, which is also one of the main things I like about the GFC over, say, a slide-in truck camper or like an AluCab system, is that I retain my truck bed. And so that'll be the first of kind of the pros, if you will, of this setup. The main one being you keep your entire truck bed. And obviously I've modified mine a little bit, but when I need to haul stuff, especially trash, because I don't have trash service at the house up in Fairbanks, I have to bring it all over to a transfer site or a transfer station. So we're probably doing a trash haul once every other week. And then we've got cardboard and some scraps as we're building stuff. Don't have to worry about it messing up the nice interior of the truck, or if I had a build out in here, still have full access to a truck bed. And even though I've got some insulation and some carpet on it, quick brush out or vacuum, perfectly fine. And so I love that you get to keep your truck bed, if you will. And sorry, we have our first mosquito of the season. It's not even May and the mosquitoes are already coming out. The next nice thing about this is the Gladiator is a light-duty truck. I wouldn't say it a small truck, but it's definitely a light-duty truck. And so keeping weight down, especially given the horrible gas mileage with the Gladiator, considering I'm basically driving a square box, and literally be like slapping a set of wheels on this Mopar box and driving it down the highway. The GFC doesn't weigh a ton. I think when they installed it, the V2 that I have with the setup, they were saying was about 250 pounds. And so I've removed the spare tire underneath, I've removed the full rear seats, and now the weight is probably up and down based on the batteries and the power system we've installed, but this didn't add a ton of weight compared to like a solid roof rack or a half rack like I had, plus a rooftop tent. And so this helps keep my weight down, which is another positive or pro to it. And then I think the third biggest one, as I mentioned on setup, the setup is almost instant and tear down just as quick. So I can pull into camp, set everything up, and be in bed or ready to go in less than 5 minutes. And this past weekend, I was camping at Arctic Man with my friends Josh, Taylor, and Luke, and they've got the iCamper Deluxe, if you will, big one with the full ensuite or shelter that comes off the front, and they've got an awning, and it's fully decked out. It's this on steroids. I had looked into getting that exact model. And on Sunday when we were packing up to leave, I was packed up in maybe 15 minutes, and that's including like tear down of all of camp, all of the stuff fully packed up, tent down, MaxTrax back on the roof, everything completely done. And they were still packing. And on a rough estimate, just on packing away the tent with their ensuite or shelter coming off over the ladder, probably takes them 10 to 15 minutes to tear down the ensuite, roll it up, pack it up, and then pack the iCamper. Versus if I have my awning out, okay, maybe you're adding another 2 minutes. If I have the awning in the walls, maybe you're adding another 10 minutes. This setup just significantly faster. And so that's depending on your camping style. If you're not wanting a crazy setup time because you're driving and arriving at camp and you spend one night at camp and then you want to pack up and hit another trail, something like this is great compared to a fully open rooftop tent where it's going to take you a little bit longer to set up. Definitely less time with a hard shell like the GFC rooftop tent or the Alucab rooftop tent, even an iCamper, versus a soft shell. But those rooftop tents versus a clamshell like this, still a whole lot faster. And then we get into pricing. I did the down payment on this in December of 2021 and had it fully paid off right around February or March of 2022. All in for install, the 3 crossbars up top, the front window and the back window within the cab, 1 door, painting and everything, was $8,800 for the entire setup as it sits here. I priced it out last week to do the exact same thing, and you're right around $10,500. So 3 years later, with the cost of inflation and the cost of materials, and this is before any of the tariffs added on to pricing, this would be roughly an extra $1,700. So 3 years later. Now in 2022, when I bought this would have been about $1,700 to $2,000 more than if I'd done a truck cap with crossbars and a hard shell tent on top. So in the grand scheme of things, not a ton in cost change difference, if you will. But when I bought this in 2022, it was far and away the cheapest quality product on the market. And it was made completely in Montana. Everyone at GFC in 2022 was working within Montana, making minimum $50,000-ish, so a livable wage at the time in 2022. And it was still the cheapest one on the market compared to AT Overland or Alucab or a sliding camper, things of that nature. This came in well under the other options. Fast forward to 2025, and this is now your middle of the road where you've got some significantly cheaper options like your Lone Peak Overland, and you've got some significantly more expensive options like the Alucab still. This sits right in the middle, but it's not carving out a place anymore, if you will, because in the same price range, you can have a fully loaded Lone Peak, you can have a Super Pacific, you can have a bare bones Alucab. You can go significantly cheaper than this with just a hard top and hard shell rooftop tent now, because there are significantly more hard shell rooftop tents on the market. So this is in kind of a weird place now when it comes to pricing compared to where it was 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, no brainer. This was absolutely the best thing to get. Now, it's a toss-up. It's still a solid product. It's still a great option, but it's no longer standing out, I guess, from a price standpoint to its competitors. And so from a pricing standpoint, like I mentioned, I paid $8,800 for it. It comes with a 2-year warranty, and I'm now out of warranty. So within those 3 years that I've had it, I had 3 warranty claims. The bolts on the front of the cab, if you will, that holds that panel with the window, the rivets started popping out. So I brought it down to Montana, had them fix it. They took the entire thing off, rebolted the front, popped it back on. I had I'm counting them as one warranty claim, even though I had to do it 3 times. I had to replace the latches on the rear panel 3 times under warranty. I've had to do it another 2 times since, because from a latch design, it's just not very good. And then I had crossbar issues on the beef bars, as they call them, because they used red Loctite to mount everything together. And when we tried to move the crossbars, they ended up actually having to pull the side panels off just to be able to move the bar. But again, that was done on a warranty. That was actually done when I went to pick the camper up back in 2022, so they took care of it immediately. In the 1 year I've been out of warranty, I've had a ton of problems. And that's, I think, where the frustrations for me are coming from, and likely where we'll start when we lead into some of the cons. To start, these crossbars, there's one here and one on the other side. They call those the banana brackets. Makes sense. They kind of look like a banana. They tie the upper cross member of the frame into your side post. Both banana brackets completely popped out and stripped the inserts on those pillars. I don't jump the vehicle. I'm not doing crazy washboards. I'm not doing 70 down dirt roads. I'm doing your normal daily driving. Granted, Alaska roads aren't the best, but this, from a stability standpoint, it popped out within 2.5 years of owning this thing and stripped the insert within the pillar. So I had to drill a larger hole, retap it and insert larger bolts just to get this secure. Wouldn't be a big issue. However, in both of those coming off, I now have a gap on this rear panel as it sits. So there is a significant air gap. Even with this sealer, as you can kind of see here, and I'll bring the camera and show it from the inside, there is a massive amount of air, dust, and water that's able to get in from this side that is likely going to need this entire panel replaced or some fix to this frame. On top of that, where the tent meets the frame, there's now an air gap. And so I've already sealed that with silicone, but that bracket coming dislodged caused issues here and here on the way the tent connects to itself. Now, for non-structural issues, I mean, grand scheme of things, the camper still works even though this happens, but I seem to have gotten a really bad paint job or quality of paint job with this camper. When I bought it, Dairy Red, which is the color for this, was an extra $1, and it is the closest color match to, at that time, any of the vehicle colors outside of black that they had. So the Dairy Red with the red on the Gladiator, even though this is faded over time, was brilliant. I love it. Even to this day, I love the red on red. But the paint up on the top hinge, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 paint chips with one significantly long, probably almost 7 or 8 inch long chip on the paint that I can't fix unless I take the panel off and have it re-powder coated or painted. Now, it's aluminum, it's not going to rust, so I don't need to worry about it. But this isn't even 3 years old. It will be 3 years old in a couple weeks, and it's got major paint chipping compared to the Gladiator is 4.5 years old, and outside of where a rock hit my hinges has no paint chipping. I know it's kind of apples to oranges on price point, but that is disappointing. And there's more on the rear panel, there's more on the opposite side. It's frustrating given the price that the paint is chipping that quickly. And so from paint chipping, one of the other main problems I've seen folks have with these campers is water intrusion, whether it be into the cap or truck bed, if you will, through some of the side panels, or more commonly within the actual tent itself. I've had neither. So I've been extremely lucky with my build on any water intrusion. Now, it's still got some water on the side of the tent from when we went camping last night. We were in a torrential downpour. No water got into the tent except when the wind was blowing. And that is a design flaw in the tent that I believe they've since fixed with the V2 Pro update. Not entirely sure. I've not been able to get up and close with the V2 Pro. But on the V2, which is what I have, the windows and doors don't fully seal all the way around. On the front door and the side doors, if I had gotten them, there's a gap on the bottom where wind can come in, and then the windows on the inside, there's a gap on the top. Pretty sure they fixed that in the V2 Pro. So on my end, any water intrusion I would have had would have come from kind of the front of the tent or this track system. I've been lucky. I've had no water intrusion. That's not to say the folks who've had water intrusion got bad units, because there seem to be more units with water intrusion than units without water intrusion. I just happen to have gotten lucky. The tent itself is brilliant. It's worked in -40, it's worked in 90 degrees, it's worked in wind, it's worked in rain, it's worked in snow. As I mentioned, I've gotten lucky. Water hasn't come through. It's a vinyl material, so the water just beads off of it and dries really quick when the sun hits it. The problem I have had with the tent is actually in the way the tent is mounted or run into the track within the frame, as both the front corners on my tent have come loose. The one on the driver's side that I'm holding up right now is large enough that you can fit a 5-hour energy bottle actually through that hole. So rain doesn't really come in from there, thankfully. Wind isn't necessarily an issue, but bugs, if I wasn't going to run thermocell mosquito coils, bugs would instantly find their way in there and they'd never come out. So from a attachment standpoint, I had planned on replacing the tent in another year anyways, figuring 4 years with a tent is a really long time, especially with how I use it. And I think the replacement's about $1,200 to get the new upgrade. So I'll make the upgrade eventually. It's just frustrating that it's pulling away from the actual frame, and I'm not sure if that's normal or if I just have a loose guide rod, if you will. But from a tent standpoint, I love the tent. It's wide enough for 2 people to sleep upstairs. It's more than perfect for just me, but it's not, if you have 2 people upstairs, you lose any like extra room, if you will. But 99.9% of the time, it's just Odin and I. And whenever there is a second person, it's either one of my good friends coming up to Alaska to visit, like Brian, or my mom and I going on like a week or 2 week long road trip. And so for that short period of time, it's not a problem at all. Now within the tent is probably the biggest modification, and it's really not even that big of a modification, but the biggest change I made outside of drilling a hole for my diesel heater was with the GFC mattress. When I bought this, there was no mattress option. You essentially got the mattress they gave you. And so at the time, it was 2 layers of foam within the upper platform with specific cutouts for the transformer floor, as they call it. And it worked reasonably well for probably the first year, year and a half, but it wasn't the best sleep I've ever gotten. I just chalked it up, okay, I'm camping, it doesn't need to be super comfortable. And then my buddy Hunter got me to test out the HEST mattress system. And that changed literally everything within the camper. I went from being tired, but okay, I'm outside, I'm getting to camp, to I now almost always prefer to sleep in my truck and within the GFC than on my bed at home. Because I swapped the GFC foam, took all of it out, and now run 1 HEST foamy, large, like a wide panel during the winter months, and 2 in the summer. It is so ridiculously comfortable. They do have special foam cutouts that actually fit within the transformer floor, but at the time when I was looking at a mattress placement, they didn't have it yet, and so I bought 2 HEST foamies. There's a possibility that I upgrade to the transformer floor as I build out my trailer, but for now, we're going to stick with what we have. But my God, the difference. When you order a GFC now, you have an option between, they're calling it the Turbo Nap, which is their upgraded foam, if you will. It's a little bit thicker, apparently significantly more comfortable, or the standard. However, I'd love for them to offer the HEST option as well, because I've not tried out the HEST versus the turbo nap that they've got, but the HEST is so comfortable. I've literally thought about swapping my mattress out at home for like a larger queen-sized HEST mattress because of the combination. It is ridiculously comfortable. It's also really warm. So in the summer months, the foam mattress does become slightly hot, and so I need to change out some of the bedding. But in the winter, especially in -40, that combined with the Aeronaut hover quilt and the heater, it's basically radiating heat. It's brilliant. That's probably the biggest upgrade change, like I said, outside of drilling a hole in the side. And it's one where I highly recommend people do. If you are going to get a GFC, don't go with their standard mattress. Get a turbo nap from them if you want to stay within the GFC family. But I can't say enough good things about the HEST foamy mattress and the HEST mattress in general, so much that I have it up top, and I bought Odin one for his dog bed. Like, it's that good of a mattress. The HEST foamy and the dog bed is also nice because it's got a liner on the bottom. So even if the floor is muddy or wet, it's got a nice waterproof bottom that you just spray off, and obviously they roll up. The one, if I could change, like the one major drawback that for me would, like, as dumb as it sounds, for me that would keep me from buying a GFC again, as dumb as it sounds, and I understand it's completely stupid, but it's that big of an issue that they have yet to solve. The latches GFC uses are so bad that I would rather go with a Lone Peak or a Super Pacific or an Alu Cab, even though I'd be spending more money on the Super Pacific and the Alu Cab and getting a not inferior but a newer product in Lone Peak that hasn't been tested and has its own issues, simply because the latches that GFC uses from Southco are so absurdly bad. If they're going to change one thing and leave everything else the same, they need to fix these latches. And I know it sounds dumb, but I have to now replace these latches on the back door twice a year, because as the truck goes down the road, this mechanism, the locking mechanism, comes loose and it starts to wiggle. And when it wiggles, it either cuts a hole into the back of this aluminum block like it's done on the driver's side, or it starts to flap because of the wind pressure coming in and no longer creates a tight seal, to the point where the driver's side latch several times has now basically opened so that anyone can just come by, even when it's locked, and just pull the entire thing right up because it doesn't maintain its tension and compression. That's something that Alu Cab is fixed, Super Pacific is fixed, Lone Peak is fixed. I don't know why they do not change these locks out. That one feature is enough for me not to buy the GFC until it's fixed. Again, as I mentioned, it's a really dumb reason, but it's that much of a pain in the ass. And so, physical product aside, when I was looking in 2021, at the time, GFC had one of the most vocal, active, supportive communities of overlanding equipment I could find. That's not the case in 2025. Now, is that reason enough not to buy something? Absolutely not. Is it reason enough not to buy something because of the locks? Absolutely not. I stand by that. I still absolutely love this camper. I have no plans of getting rid of it. I've joked about upgrading to a Super Pacific or an Alu Cab, but realistically, this is paid off. I don't owe any more money on it. It's not costing me any extra money, not dissimilar to the truck. So why upgrade when this works perfectly fine? I'm building out a trailer for the extras, if you will. I don't need to do that here. Are there better products on the market now? Yes. Are there products on the market that have better customer service than GFC? Yes. Are there better products on the market that have better communities than GFC? Yes. And that's, I think, what's frustrating. In 2021, 2022, when I picked it up, the GFC forums, which are still alive today, were wildly active. You could ask questions and have dozens of GFC owners, because at the time, this was unit number 3080. There are over 7,000 GFCs on the roads now. At the time, I got answers to questions almost immediately. The Facebook group, wealth of knowledge, super supportive. The company actively supported its owners going out and camping. There's this thread on the forums called the pudding thread, of all things. I don't know why it's called pudding. You won't probably ever understand it, but the gist behind it is GFC will reward you for going camping. Sounds silly, I know, but if you camp for 50 nights a year in their tent or their canopy camper like this, they reward you. They send you a CNC cut little badge that pops in on the corner of the back camper, and it has a like 50 nights camped. Is it cheesy? Yeah. Is it inexpensive for them as a reward for folks? Absolutely. But it got me out camping. In 2023, I camped 50 nights. It was actually 54, and part of the reason it was only 54 is because the engine on the Jeep blew up, literally. So in 2024, I was like, okay, I've got to hit 100 nights. Well, I hit 127 nights in 2024. My God, was that a pain in the ass. It was difficult, but I had a blast, and I was really looking forward to, again, as silly as it sounds, that badge to put on the truck that said I camped 100 nights. I got the 2023 badge on January 16th of 2024. We are a week away from April in 2025, and I still have not received any communication on when that badge is coming. Now, is it similar to the Latches and everything else? Is it make or break? No. But it's yet another concern with the direction the company's going based on previous ownership. Now, Graham, the co-founder, has bought it and is making things right. They are doing a weekly update on all of the V2 products, which include headliners and tent fabrics and lighting kits. They're doing a weekly update. They are now completely caught up on some of the items after they had distribution problems. So Graham's doing things right. He's fixing problems. But they shouldn't have been problems to begin with, and at some point in time, whether it's the old CEO or the old owner, GFC seems to have lost its way within the vision and the overlanding community to where they practically abandoned us. As of right now, I still don't think they have a social or community person whose focus full-time is on social and community. The person who's doing it right now, Thomas, who's great, no knock on Graham or Thomas at all, but as a company, there's no one focused on growing the community, and it kind of shows. Now, again, is that a reason not to go with a product that is clearly good? That one's tricky, because what you're buying when you buy with companies, at least for me, I'm buying from companies who have great customer service and support their communities. It's why I go with companies like Expion 360. They've got a 12-year warranty on their battery. Are they expensive? Yeah, but I asked them when I bought it if it would work in -40, and they gave me reassurances not only that it would work, but if it didn't work, they'd come up with a solution so that it would work, on top of a 12-year warranty. This was 4 times as expensive as that lithium battery. Comes with a 2-year warranty, and when I bought it, amazing customer service. In 2025, okay customer service. They're not going above and beyond anymore, and I get it, that's a sign of the times, especially the economy we're in right now, but that's frustrating given when I bought it in the first place, it was because it was made in America, in Montana, where they were paying people a living wage in Montana, and their customer service was through the roof. I can't say it anymore, and that combined with the Latches, again, as dumb as it is that I'm complaining about Latches, the Latches are a problem because their customer service doesn't fix the concerns that are caused by something as trivial as bad latch design. And so in 2025, I didn't have this, right? Like, let's say I just bought a brand new truck and I needed to figure out what I was building out. I'd go with a Super Pacific. I'd go with a slide-in camper. I am still at fault, if you will, because I have a 5-foot bed. So in hindsight, yes, a 6.5-foot bed would have been significantly better, but they don't make it for the Jeep Gladiator. But if I didn't have the GFC and I was just getting into it, I'd buy the Super Pacific. Allo cab would be a dream, but not at the price to actually buy one and build it out, versus the Super Pacific, which is slightly longer than this, but has better customer service and better locks and better latches, and just, they solve all the qualms, if you will. But yes, you'd be paying an extra $2,500 for it. Okay, if the customer service is going to stand behind it and the quality's there, and I know in 3 years I'm not SOL and high and dry like I am now, it's worth it to me. So again, I absolutely love my GFC. I have no plans of selling it. It's not going anywhere. I'm going to continue to use it. I'm going to end up replacing this tent fabric in another year with the V2 Pro tent, so that'll solve some of my issues, but it's still, I no longer recommend GFC to folks, even though I'm happy I have mine. And so I don't know how folks will take that, but there are the goods, the bads, and the uglies, if you will, on 200 plus nights and 3 years of a GFC, with 150 of those nights coming in Alaska with weather from -40 up to 90 degrees.